Hey, what's up? How's it going? I hope that you're doing wonderful. And right here, I'm going to be talking about the unknown Bantu history and the legacy, because I've actually noticed that a lot of people believe that Bantu people have no history, and this is not only people outside of Africa, but people within Africa. They believe that Bantu people were what white people describe them as, what the colonialists describe them as, to be more specific, which is pagans who are illiterate, ignorant, and very primitive. So a lot of people just thought like Bantu and everything that's related to Bantu language is so backward. I was watching an interview by the Kenyan writer Ngugi wa Thiong, and he was saying that he went to a conference in New York at some point in the 60s, and one of the people there, like a very prominent writer who was on the panel of very distinguished writers, said that people don't write in certain languages like Bantu languages because these languages only have one or two words. So he said something like that, like to this whole congregation, delegation of writers, this whole convention, and Ngugi wa Thiong actually stood up. And then he says, "No, you can't say that about my language." And he says that that's the epiphany he got, and from there he started writing in native dialects. And this is the same thing that like Spanish people do, you know? Latin people write in their own dialects, and Africans actually don't do that because a lot of Africans don't actually realize the power that they have within what they already have. It's like a person who has a diamond field who sells it for a bowl of soup. You know, this is what's happening when a person doesn't have knowledge. So when you understand that the Bantu history has been so big and so long, but a lot of people just associate it with certain things, just like slavery, slave trade. Like growing up, like a lot of people just know this about Africa. That first of all, there was slaves traded in Africa, right? And then after that, there was colonization, and that is our history. And this is just what we grow up understanding. The only time when you get like decent African history at a certain level is when you're in advanced level, which is when you choose to really specialize in history. And at that point, if you do choose African history, you're just gonna get a couple of topics that really explain it, but you're not gonna get the in-depth understanding because the people who write the history are not Africans. So who writes our history? And that is the main thing, because the people who write our history are writing their stories, because anyone who wins the war is the person who writes history. So just imagine like Hitler had won the war in the Second World War. He'd won it. He was going to write all of the books, and everything was going to be like Nazi is good and capitalism is bad. This is what was going to happen. So the same thing happens when we are reading our history, that it's actually written by people who have ulterior motives and who have seen certain things that they want to exploit through their propaganda. So this has been the problem, that history is writing his story. So the victor writes his story. That is history. So they're not actually explaining the truth. And certain things, like when you learn about them, you actually get mad. You actually get mad. Like why didn't I know what I'm supposed to know? Because all of the knowledge is just a building block of a person's mind. Like your vitality, your identity is made through the knowledge that is in your mind. So if your knowledge is being trapped in this box, like, nah, you're supposed to think in this box because you belong in this box is too big for you. Like, this is actually what happens. And this type of manipulation happens on so many different levels. And understanding that it is something that is sometimes in the systems of the world, the Babylon system, the world systems that are actually orchestrating that certain information should be put in a certain way. So our understanding has a certain limitation to it. So if you understand that the whole the whole Bantu civilization, like it's actually encompassing the whole of Africa, right? So the Bantu civilization is based on the philosophy of Ubuntu, and this is a philosophy of man, of person, of humanity. It actually just means human nature, and Ubuntu is the bedrock of all of the philosophies in the world, and this is how we come to understand the world around us, because it's like a science. It's an art. It is a language. It is manners. It is courtship. It is marriage. It is friendship. It is business. It is everything. So when they had this spirit, this is what they had. Like, this is the basis of Bantu society. So the Bantu, the black, the burnt, these are the people. So they just burnt. So this is how, like, when they're talking about the people of the burnt skin, these people are actually the Bantu. So they actually burnt. Like, everyone who's black is burnt. So this is from the people in the land of Africa. So Africa just is this huge landmass that actually Africa is a country, because Africa has a single flag. Africa has the Pan-African flag. So this flag is embodied in a certain country, Ethiopia. So Africa is Ethiopia. When you're reading the Bible and the Bible is talking about Ethiopia, it's not talking about the country. It's talking about the continent, which is a country. So if you understand that the flag is the same flag. So all of the burnt skins, like the Ethiops, like these people were smart. These people were smart, and they actually created so many systems that were actually just taken. Like, they actually have a Bible. Like, they have like one of the oldest Bibles, like written 800 years ago in their own language, encoded in African language. You check it out. So they actually have this understanding, like on a deep like they deciphered the text. They actually know what's in the Word of God. Like, they actually know this, and it's the Ethiopian Bible, one of the oldest Bibles in the world. Like, it's actually the oldest Bible, I think. Yeah, 800 years old or something like that. And it has like 88 books, 80 to 88 books, you know. So it's actually really, really deep. So when you look at Africa, like, what you're looking at is a whole continent. So what happens is, when people of the outside continents, or even within Africa, like, when they start to think, within or without, like, when they start to think that a certain place of Africa was like less and a certain place was better, this distorts the whole view of what the place actually is, because Africa is like, has such great diversity that all of these kingdoms had all of their own understandings and all of their own principles. So when you're looking at it, you're looking at the first civilizations, the first kingdoms, the first kings, the first queens, and how they used to actually interact. So when you know that these civilizations were sometimes in Egypt, so a lot of people speak about Egypt, and Egypt is cool, but then, like, I think their obsession with Egypt defeats the purpose, because when they look at Egypt and see it as, all right, that is Africa and that is it, and of which a lot of people have actually thought that Egypt is in the Middle East, which is crazy, because the Middle East is in Africa. So when they look at Egypt only, they actually don't look at the Bantu civilizations, who a lot of people just think they have nothing to do with the civilization in the world, which is crazy, because they are the basis and the bedrock of all of the civilizations in the world. So when you understand that, when you're looking at all of these civilizations, what you're looking at is the whole continent, which is literally basically a country of people with burnt skin. So all of them are just like that. All of them are just burnt skin Buddhas. Yeah. So when actually you look at Egypt, like, there's so much on Egypt that you can just look on the internet, right? But then when you look at the Bantu civilizations, who, like, no one really regards as being people, like, people think these are just slaves and all of that. But then the Bantu civilization has a lot that, like, no one has even tapped into, or even like really understood, because these people were so complex, and these people had their own technology. Like, these people were mathematicians, the first doctors, the first chemists, the first scientists, the first mathematicians. These were like people who were Bantu. So when you look in certain tribes, like the system that is used right now as I'm speaking to you, we're using digital information, which is in binary code, right? So when you want to look at where binary systems come from, you look in the Bantu kingdoms, which is in West Africa. Like they say that Bantus came from West Africa and whatnot, but just understanding that it's all one country. So in the greater sense, it's all one place, you know. But these Bantu tribes actually created this binary system that is being used, and this is the 0-1 system that is being used for computers today, and this is how our calculators are made. When you're making mathematical calculations on a calculator, what you're actually using is something called Ethiopian mathematics. This type of mathematics is the one that's used for cash registers, for calculators. And these burnt-skinned people were doing this, you know. These Bantu people in the western side were creating this binary math, you know. And they were creating this, and this is what we actually call the system of the internet. All of this is the binary system. You check it out. So this is what they were actually doing, and this is just one tribe. Another tribe actually creates the 8-bit system. So when you speak in any Bantu language, you know that the word for these sacred stones or something like that, they're called hakata. So these items, like you just, when you throw them, like you have these 8 bits, you throw, and this 8 bits just represents some understanding of the male, the female, those numbers and everything. So when you throw them, these 8 bits, like they land on the floor, and then you can actually read them. And through this, you have what we call our system of memory. This is computational, quantum mathematical computation. Because from these 8 bits, this Hakata, which is also in the Bible, by the way, these are called lots. When they were casting lots, they're casting these things, and these things come from Africa. So they cast them, and this is how algorithms work. They actually use this 8-bit technology. Like 1 byte is 8 bits because it comes from the Hakata. So this is actually the Bantu origin of quantum computing, quantum mathematics. Like this is how calculators are made. So this is the basis of rocket science. You check it out. So this is the understanding that these people had. Like if you actually look into it, like if you look at the trade records of the Ghana kingdom, like one of their biggest imports is books. These people are importing books, reading books, you know, like in certain places, like if you understand that Africa is so vast, so they had this intricate understanding through just being in the same place, in the same continent. They share exact, like, similar cultures. Like I can relate to a person in like West Africa, probably East Africa, you know, Central Africa, because all of the things are pretty much similar. So all of them had a similar way of life, a similar understanding of what the world was. And all of this was through them understanding each other through a system which was common to them. This is their bond. This is just the light, what bonds them, the bonfire, which is just the bond, which is just the Bantu, which is just the burnt, like everyone is just that light, you know. So when you actually look at it, that they were exchanging information, trading, they had different understandings, and they also had like geometry. How they were building all of these things were through geometry. They were using actual geometry to create Great Zimbabwe. It's called fractal geometry. So from this understanding of mathematics, of computation, of the binary system, of the bit network, how computers work, they use bits, gigabytes, you know, terabytes. They come from the bit, the byte. They come from that. They come from the Bantu. So from this basic building block, they have this modern world, which has all of these things, which are based in this Bantu civilizations. So when you understand this from this perspective, you'd see like there's so many things that it's not that people are not supposed to actually understand, that people are not supposed to comprehend. Like the Bantu people, right, which are from the south and from the west, like they just everywhere, right? Because Bantu is just black. right? So these people actually had their own writing. Like there's this distinctive writing in Bantu people where they actually had their own symbols. So their writing is based on symbols, just like how the hieroglyphics in Egypt are based on symbols. They had their own symbols and how they understood each other. So with this symbol, you realize that if they had their own writing system, this is pre-colonial, by the way. But then when the people came to colonize and settle, they like burnt those books because these Bantu people were already like writing on skins, writing on walls, writing on stones, writing on whatever trees, you know, because all of the information is from the trees. So they had this understanding of the trees. Like they were so rooted and grounded in nature that they were understanding the trees, and they used to understand these symbols, which they used to depict in certain writings. Like they used to write these things, which were taken away, and the knowledge of it was like not there. But then this knowledge was what they used to, like when they make their fabrics and their clothes, because they used to weave clothes. So when they make their fabric and their clothes, they like put all of these symbols there, and these things give them this understanding. So when you see it, you know what it means. So them having a symbol for their writing means that they know what resonates with the mind and with nature, you know. So they already have this form of reasoning because they have these symbols. A symbol is a statement, which is a state of mind, a state mentality, a state of your mentality. That is the symbol. So these statements were seen through these symbols, these glyphs. This is what you see all over Africa. You know, south, east, west, north, central, everywhere. Like Ethiopia has its own G script, you know, and they also have these symbols in like Kush. So when you look at this, what you're looking at is this whole thing, like this whole place, which is just a country, you know, which is just a country, which is the same continent. So all of this is them writing in these symbols. And what these symbols are actually transmitting is what we call information. Because for you to understand a symbol, it has to come from inside. So this is high information because it is forming from inside. Every symbol has a lesson. So every symbol is a signal. So it comes from inward and it's formed outward. So this was higher information, inner formation. So they had this formation. This is how they could actually form their societies. So this symbol is actually what we call like this eye in eye. This is the eye in eye. This is how they actually used to understand this, that this is the eye in eye. This is the symbol because they could see the eye within the eye, you know. So all of this is how they actually used to just have this inner formation. And this inner formation is how they form their whole society. Inner formation is a man being a man, a person being a person, which is Ubuntu, which is the Bantu bond, which is which is what just creates the I in I. I am I because you are you. So this is being a person through other people. You are I, you are me. Like this is oneness. This is a bond. This is a bonfire. You know, so this is how they used to have all of this creativity, that they could actually do one thing together. Like in the north, people are actually able to create these pyramids together. In the east, people are actually able to create these like obelisks. You know, all of these things are being created because they have the knowledge of the I and I. And this is the Ubuntu. This is that whatever that was. And you know, like when you look at it, what it actually is, it's like this is the way that the kings used to live. This is a regal mindset. This, like, Bantu is actually reggae, like a regal king mindset. This is a kingdom mentality. Like reggae is like treating everyone else like a king. This is the I and I, right? So they had this Ubuntu. They had this essence, and when you look at like what Jamaica reggae and what it represents, like that is actually Africa. This is how the Ethiopian flag is for a country, but it's for a continent. And when you resonate with the fact that Jamaica is in Africa, because the flag is the African flag. When you resonate on that level, then you're understanding that frequency, that everyone who has that understanding, that's the I and I. This is the understanding. And what reggae is where we get hip hop. Like, this is the basis of hip hop. Hip hop came from reggae. Hip hop is knowledge of under the movement of knowledge. Hip hop is literally the hippie movement. Hip hop. Like, this is hippie movement. So the hippie movement, the whole 60s thing, the whole 60s vibe. And this is when Haile Selassie was murdered. And this was the time when these people had this awareness of him. Like, how did these people know this? Because, like, Haile Selassie's name actually literally means one with the power of the Trinity. So these people in the 30s actually broke down the etymology, and they actually knew this on this level. So they had this hippie understanding. This is the hip-hop movement. And this is how Bob Marley will go to a place like Zimbabwe in Bantu land and sing a song called Zimbabwe. You know, he didn't sing a song called Egypt, because there's a deeper understanding in the Bantu understanding that, like, alright, Egypt is dope, but then, like, the people who are speaking of Egypt are speaking on it on this level that you're not able to resonate with it in the actual sense of what it is. It is just Africa. It is everything in Africa. So this is how, like, Zimbabwe is Egypt. This is the same country. So when you understand it this way, you're not understanding it like how you're supposed to understand it because of the way people are educated. That no, the Bantu people are slaves and they've always been in the lower regions and whatever. But then when you actually read the Bible, like, there's this place called the Garden of Eden. And in the Garden of Eden, the first place that is given breath to by God, which is where the first river flows from, is called the river of Pishon, right? And then it flows to a place called Havilah. And then from there, the second place that is named is in Africa, which is Kush. The second one flows to Kush. Then the third one is flowing in Syria. And then the fourth and final one is flowing in the Euphrates in Turkey there. And this is the Garden of Eden. So when you understand that Havilah is actually in the land of Punt. This is in the land of Punt, and this is where the Bantu understanding comes from. This is having the understanding of heaven's village, Havilah. This is where the first breath of God is. So this is why this land is so sacred. Like, this is the first land that God gave breath to. Like, there's a place called Havilah. And this land is so beautiful, so wonderful. And what he told them is that there's gold there. And then what happened is in 1902 or 1920, people from Britain, because this whole Havilah land, which is in Bantu land, which is in the southern part of Africa, which is Havilah then Kush. Like, everything north is Kush, everything south is Havilah. And then from there you have the Middle East, and this comprises the whole Garden of Eden. So this is crazy. So in 1920, like, British people came to Zimbabwe, and then they established a camp called Camp Havilah, where they were trying to find certain things there. So this is their understanding of what they knew to be true, and they came to this place in the Bantu land. So when you understand that this place is so diverse and is so mixed with all of these different things, you understand that all of the things are just pointing to the fact that it's all about the knowledge of who you are as a person and who we are as people. This is the whole understanding of Ubuntu. Whatever Havilah represents is like this understanding of the land of Punt. So when I'm talking about the land of Punt, like, wherever it is, you know, like, it's a paradise. So wherever it is a place where you find this spirit of Ubuntu. So even if you find it in like Alaska with Eskimos, that is the land of Punt. Even if you find it in Zimbabwe, in Havilah, that is the land of Punt. Even if you find it on Mars, that's the land of Punt. So find it in your heart, yo. I wanna see all the beautiful girls, black and white, brown and Cadillac. I wanna see all the magic, your beauty, your love, people. Yeah, give me all your places. I never ever knew what it takes to be a man. Hope you understand, like a sneakerhead, and laugh at the path that I passed. Forgive my stupid acts, cause I had no one to ask. Gotta hustle in the streets, make split ends meet. Making friends or enemies. Would you call me king if I said I had a dream? Would you call it peace if I gave you cake to eat? Thought
Thought I found love, but you tore my heart apart. Thought I built a house, but you're sinking in the mud. Always saw myself putting pride on the shelf. Wanna build a life with a wife for myself. Sitting in the wind at the tip of an aeroplane wing. Trying to find heaven's road, heard it's called a tightrope. Find me in the mystery and tickle me in misery. Making future history and take away iniquity. Always been perturbed by the swirl of the world.
I wanna see everything that I dream, that I like, that I wish to see. I wanna see all the beautiful gas, black and white, brown and color. I wanna see all the magic, of beauty, I love people. Yeah, give me up. Y'all please just give me up.
I love the better days. I love the song of hope, I'm just a mile away. Tell them Kanye's
living in a dream state. Gotta hold your head up here and say, hey.
I wanna see everything that I dream, that I like, that I wish to see. I wanna see everything that I dream, that I like, that I wish to see. I wanna see all the magic, of beauty, I love people. I wanna see all the magic, of beauty, I love people. Yeah, give me up. Y'all please just give me up. Yeah, give me up. Y'all please just give me up. All day.